Alright, I'm going to be starting this video a little bit differently than I usually do. I'm actually going to start by giving you all the answers so you can fast forward to problems that you know you need to work on and you don't have to worry about the ones that you got right. Okay, so number 1, the answer is x equals positive or negative 2.24. Number 2, the answer is no solution. 3, the answer is x equals 3 and x equals negative 9. Number 4, the answer is x equals 5.26 and x equals negative 0.76. Number 5, we should get x equals 0 and x equals negative 3. Number 6, we should have x equals negative 5 and x equals negative 2. 7, we should have x equals 4 and x equals negative 1.5. And number 8, we get x equals 9 and x equals negative 3. Do not dare write these problems down and just put answers, because obviously you will not get credit for it, but these are just so that you are able to fast forward a little bit if you got any of them right. So here we go, actually working the problems. Okay, the objective says to solve quadratic equations. The directions are solve each equation by the method of your choice. Round solutions to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So we get to use our method that we prefer, and we're going to round to the hundredths place, which is 2 places after the decimal. All right, I will work these problems generally a couple different ways. So I will tell you I'm working it this way. If I'm working it the next way, fast forward it. So just skip to the way that you would prefer to work this problem. All right, I'm going to start this one by noticing that it is missing the bx term, so I'm actually going to use square roots. If you would prefer the quadratic formula, please fast forward to me working it using the quadratic formula. So if I'm using square roots, we do not want it to equal 0, so I'm going to actually add 19 to both sides to isolate the x squared. So when I do that, I'm going to get 6x squared equals 30, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 6, which will give me x squared equals 5, and then to get rid of a square, we square root both parts, so I'm going to get x equals the square root of 5 is 2.24, and we know that we're going to get the positive and the negative of that answer. Right, if you prefer to work this the quadratic formula way, let me just make sure that we have it set up correctly for that. Quadratic formula, it must equal 0, so we're going to subtract 11 from both sides. And then when we go to put this together, very important, is these are like terms, so we're actually going to write them together. So I'm going to have 6x squared, negative 19 minus 11 is negative 30 equals 0. Okay, and then equally important is labeling our parts correctly. The a is going to be 6, the b is going to be 0 because there's no term that has an x in it, and my c will be negative 30. So you might know the quadratic formula, but if you didn't pick the right a, b, and c, you are going to get it wrong. Okay, there we go. X equals opposite b, so opposite of 0 is 0 plus or minus square root. B squared is still 0 minus 4 times your a value times your c value all over 2 times the a, so 2 times the a would be 12. All right, and then from here we're going to get x equals 0 plus or minus. If you plug the square root of 0 minus 4 times 6 times negative 30 into your calculator, you will get 26.83. And we're still going to divide it by 12. And then if you take 0 plus 26.83 and divide it by 12, you are going to get positive 2.24. And then if you do 0 minus 26.83 and divide it by 12, you are going to get negative 2.24. Okay, problem 2. 4x squared plus 200 equals 44. Again, on this one, since the bx term is missing, I'm going to work it the first way using square roots. Again, if you'd prefer the quadratic formula, just fast forward a little bit. So square roots, we're going to subtract 200 from both sides. I will get 4x squared equals negative 156. I will divide both sides by 4, and then I'll get x squared is equal to negative 39, and then I'll square root. Well, if you try to square root a negative number on your calculator, it will tell you domain error, so we know that this is no solution for this problem. Okay, if you prefer to work it using the quadratic formula, again, we want it to equal 0. So we're going to subtract 44 from both sides. So when I do that, I'm going to get 4x squared. Again, these are like terms, so we're going to put them together. 200 minus 44 is a positive 156 equals 0. Now again, picking my A, my B, and my C. A will equal 4. B is 0 because there's no x term, and C is equal to 156. So now setting it up, we're going to get x equals opposite B plus or minus square root. B squared would be 0 minus 4 times the A times the C all over 2 times my A value, which will be 8. And then when I do that, if I try to do that, I will get another domain error. So either case, it will be no solution. Number 3, x plus 3 squared is equal to 36. Unless you'd like to expand this and do a lot of work, I would definitely suggest just square roots on this one. We know to get rid of the square, we're going to take the square root of both sides. So this square and the square root cancel each other out. So we're going to get x plus 3 equals, the square root of 36 is 6, but we know that we do have to put the positive negative in front of it. And now here, solving for x, we're just going to subtract 3. So now I'm going to get x equals positive 6 minus 3 is 3, and then negative 6 minus 3 is negative 9. Okay, number 4, 2x squared minus 8 equals 9x. Whether we're going to solve by factoring or the quadratic formula, we must have it equal 0. So I'm going to subtract 9x from both sides. And then we have to be really careful on this side. When I go to rewrite it, it needs to be written in standard form. So we're going to have 2x squared minus 9x minus 8 equals 0. Okay, and then on this one, I believe we're going to have to use a quadratic formula. I do not think it will factor. So we're going to get A is equal to 2, B is equal to negative 9, and C is equal to negative 8. So we're going to have x equals the opposite of B, which will be 9, plus or minus square root. B squared, negative 9 times itself will be a positive 81, so be very careful on that one, minus 4 times 2 times negative 8, because it's 4 times A times C, all over 2 times the A term, so 2 times 2 is 4. All right, so now from here, we're going to use our calculator a little bit. The square root of 81 minus 4 times 2 times negative 8 is 12.04. And we're still dividing by 4. And then from here, we're going to do 9 plus 12.04, which gives us 21.04. We'll divide that by 4, and we will get 5.26 as one of our x's. And then 9 minus 12.04 is negative 3.04. Again, we'll divide by 4, and I'll get x equals negative 0.76. Okay, number 5, 15x plus 5x squared equals 0. Okay, whether we're going to factor or use a quadratic formula, we want it to equal 0, which it does. The next thing, we do want this written in standard form, so I need to switch it around. So we're going to have 5x squared plus 15x equals 0. Okay, I'm going to first of all solve by factoring. If you would prefer the quadratic formula, just skip ahead a little bit to that explanation. All right, I'm going to use GCF. I notice that 5 will go into both parts, and they both have an x. So let me write that underneath each part. If I divide that out, 5 divided by 5 is 1, x squared over x is x, plus 15 divided by 5 is 3. Okay, using the zero product property, we're going to get x equals 0, and x equals negative 3. Okay, if you prefer to work that using the quadratic formula, let's just make sure we have our parts right. My A would be 5, my B would be 15, and there is no C term, so C will be 0. So solving that using the quadratic formula, we're going to get x equals opposite B, so negative 15 plus or minus square root. B squared, 15 squared is 225, minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times my A value, so 2 times 5 is 10. Right, and then from here, we're going to get negative 15 plus or minus. If you type this square root into your calculator, you will get 15 over 10. Okay, so negative 15 plus 15 will be 0 over 10, which is 0. And then negative 15 minus 15 will be negative 30 over 10, which will be negative 3. Okay, number 6, x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Regardless of the method that I'm going to use, it does equal 0, so I'm set to do that. I'm going to do factoring first, so if you prefer the quadratic formula, again, just skip ahead a little bit. I notice this factors very nicely because it's a trinomial. I'm looking for 10, and I notice that 5 times 2 will do the trick because 5 times 2 is 10, and if you add those two numbers together, you will get 7. Oh, it's supposed to be a plus sign. And we still equal 0. Now, using the zero product property, we're going to get x equals negative 5, and x equals negative 2. Okay, so that part is set. If you were to use the quadratic formula instead, let's just label our parts. A will be 1, B will be 7, c will be 10. So I'm going to get x equals the opposite of b, which is going to be negative 7, plus or minus the square root. B squared, 7 squared is 49, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a, so 2 times 1 is 2. And then we'll get negative 7 plus or minus. If we were to type this all in our calculator, we should get 3, and it's still all over 2. So negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4 over 2, which reduces to negative 2. And then negative 7 minus 3 is negative 10 divided by 2, and that will give us negative 5. Okay, number 7, we have 2x squared minus 5x minus 12 is equal to 0. Although we could factor this one, I think quadratic formula will be a little bit easier. So I will do quadratic formula first, but if you'd prefer to factor it, just skip ahead on this video a little bit. All right, my a value is going to be 2. My b value is negative 5. My c value is negative 12. So now I'm going to get x equals the opposite of b is 5, plus or minus the square root. B squared, negative 5 squared is 25, minus 4 times my a value times my c value. All over 2 times the a, so 2 times 2 is 4. And then from here we're going to get 5 plus or minus. If you type this into your calculator with the square root, you will end up getting 11, and it's still all over 4. So then we'll do 5 plus 11, which is 16, and when you divide that by 4, you're going to get x equals 4. And then 5 minus 11 is negative 6, and when you divide that by 4, you're going to get negative 1.5. Okay, so that's the quadratic formula way. If you'd prefer to factor it, we're going to have 2x. I actually will be looking for a negative 24. Don't forget we're going to have to divide that by 2 when we're done. And I'm looking for negative 5. I believe negative 8 times 3 will work. And I'll divide this part out by 2. And now using the zero product property, this one will be easy to get. It's just x equals 4. This one we actually have to set equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 3. I'll get 2x equals negative 3. Divide both sides by 2. Negative 3 divided by 2 is negative 1.5. Okay, then problem 8, we have x squared minus 27 equals 6x. Regardless of the method, we are going to have to make it equal 0, so I'm going to subtract 6x first. And this is another one of those problems where we need to make sure we write it in standard form. So it's going to be x squared minus 6x minus 27 equals 0. I believe that factoring will be easier on this one, but again, if you'd prefer quadratic formula, just skip ahead on the video a little bit. Okay, if I factor this, it's going to be x and x. I'm looking for negative 27. 9 times negative 3, negative 9 times 3. This one is the one that will give me negative 6 in the middle, so minus 9 plus 3. And then using the zero product property, we're going to get x equals 9 and x equals negative 3. Okay, if you preferred the quadratic formula, we have x squared minus 6x minus 27 equals 0. We'll get a equals 1, b equals negative 6, c equals negative 27. And so we're going to get x equals the opposite of b, which is 6, plus or minus the square root. B squared, so negative 6 squared is 36. Notice this is a positive number right there, no matter what. Minus 4 times your a value times your c value, all over 2 times the a. 2 times 1 is 2. And then from here, if you type this in the square root, you're going to get 12. So it's going to be 6 plus or minus 12 divided by 2. 6 plus 12 is 18. And if we divide that by 2, we will get 9. And then 6 minus 12 is negative 6 divided by 2, which gives us negative 3.